All my friends, I'm over here now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of Philly Comedy Club presents the RUS GUTIN Experience here on Zoom. Give it up for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us in the gallery. I'm so excited to have you guys here tonight for Season 2, Episode 2 of the RUS GUTIN Experience. We are also available to like and subscribe on my YouTube channel. This week, we have an amazing episode. We're calling it a Paper House Network Invasion. Paper House Network is the sister digital platform of the New York Comedy Club universe, of which Philly Comedy Club and Atlantic City Comedy Club is a part of. So you can get all of your flagship comedian created podcasts right there on Paper House Network. And this week we are doing a Paper House Network invasion. First, I am going to play our first ever pre-recorded segment ever where I interview the commissioner of comedy himself, Mr. James Mattern. That's right, we've never had a guest with such an official title. Most of them are just degenerates or an embarrassment to their parents. But tonight we have the commissioner of comedy. And then after that, I am so excited because, as you know, I am a Bleed Green diehard Eagles fan, and this Sunday is what we call the Keystone Bowl, or the Battle of Pennsylvania, Eagles versus Steelers, a very rare regular season matchup. And I have the co-host of Paper House Network's hit podcast, Rust Belt Rivals, Mr. Nick Angelo, who is not only the Pittsburgh Steeler co-host of Rust Belt Rivals, where he goes at his best friend Simon, who is a Cleveland Browns fan, but he is also one of the magicians behind the scenes here on our digital platform of the New York Comedy Club universe and Philly Comedy Club, who sets up all of our tickets and our podcasts. So give it up for our amazing guest here. I'm so excited to keep it in the family. Now, if you haven't joined us before for a Zoom comedy show, or if this is your first virtual comedy show, it's my job to give you the 3 simple Zoom rules of the road for virtual comedy. Now, the first rule is, if you are paying attention to the show, I want you to sit up straight. I want you to have the best lighting you can. I want you to remove every children and animal from the room, and I want you to go ahead and unmute that mute button, because we want to see your smiles and your eyes. We want to hear your laughs, your guffaws, your claps, and your sighs, and maybe even your groans at some of the inappropriate things that we say here on the RUS GUTIN Experience. But go ahead and do that for me, because we want you to be part of the experience. Number 2, though, if you feel the need to speak to your significant other, interrupt the show, or even speak to one of your animals or potted plants, because let's face it, we've been in quarantine a long time. People are losing their shit. I want you to go ahead, even if you have to take a giant shit or a long piss, go ahead and hit that mute button, hit that block screen, and then come back and join us when you're ready to join the show. And lastly, just be forewarned that if you feel the need to interrupt or heckle Papa Russ or any of our guests during the show, in the old real world of comedy, I would just have our large Dominican or African American security guard physically remove you from the room. But here in the virtual world, I will just hit a little button here and fire you off into inner space on one of Elon Musk's spaceships, like your Dennis Quaid shrunk into a little person, okay? So not every change from real world comedy to virtual world comedy is such a bad thing. So give it up for the Zoom rules of the road, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! All right, before we move on with these killer guests that I have here tonight, it's time for your first segment every week here on Philly Comedy Club Presents the RUS GUTIN Experience here on Season 2, Episode 2. And that is QUARAN-BITS, where I let you know how my week in quarantine is going. Now, this is a little follow-up to Season 1, but if you've been following the show, you know that not only is Papa Russ a nut for video games and my PS4 Pro, I am also a nut for my new virtual reality setup and system on my PS4. PSVR is the absolute balls. I absolutely love it. I have played so many games, including Evasion and Blood and Truth. And in the last week and a half, I've been playing a lot of Star Wars virtual reality games like Vader Immortal, where I get a lightsaber, and Star Wars Rogue Squadrons, where I finally, for the first time in my life, get to fly an X-Wing or a TIE fighter. So it has been very exciting, and I love VR. Now, here's the thing, though, that I have learned about VR. Two things. Now, here's what you need to know about VR during the quarantine. I really love it because it's the only time that I really get to get outside of the house, if you understand. I only leave my home once a week in a hazmat suit to go grocery shopping. And I go very early in the morning to double social distancing. So there's really only the cashier and two other elderly Trump supporters in the Aldi. Like, that's how I try to run my life, okay? So I have not been around any people except my family here, okay? So when I do virtual reality, I really get to see the world. And as you might know about me, I am also an actor. I went to school for musical theater. So when I do virtual reality, I get really fucking into it, okay? I wear the costumes, I set myself up and everything. Like when I played Blood and Truth, where you're like a British gangster, one day I just put on a full suit, shirt and tie. I wanted to have the full Jason Statham experience, okay? When I played the Creed boxing game from the Rocky movies, I put on these Apollo Creed looking Sixer shorts, okay? And no shirt, and I hiked up my ankle socks all the way past my calves with the giant helmet on my face. So picture that. You're welcome, America, okay? And if they had a pirate themed game, I swear to you, my wife would come downstairs and she would see me in a full, long, red Captain Hook setup. And I'd be like, because when I do VR, I go all the way because I'm an actor, okay? But here's what I have learned about virtual reality, about real reality, is I know going forward that we are always going to wear masks in social situations, okay? This is how I discovered it. Because I was playing Star Wars Rogue Squadrons the other night, where I got to be in a flight simulator and fly an X-Wing and a TIE fighter. And what I did was, I zipped up my bomber jacket, my Eagles bomber jacket, so I could feel the full, Top Gun experience of flying an X-Wing. And yes, it is an Eagles bomber jacket, because even in the galaxy far, far away, I got to represent the birds, okay? All right? I bleed green even in space, okay? In space, no one can hear you bleed green. And all of a sudden, during the game, there I was as an X-Wing pilot having a briefing with my squadron for a big mission against the Empire. And all of a sudden, I look to my left and I look to my right, and I am surrounded by more people than I have ever been surrounded by since March. There's like 7 or 8 people around this briefing table, and absolutely naturally, totally automatically, I reached into my pocket, grabbed my mask, and masked up. So I realized that I am social distancing in virtual reality. It was such a natural reaction. And then I thought to myself, oh my God, Is there anything the pandemic and Trump cannot ruin, including video games? These motherfuckers, okay? So that's how I know that this is not something that's going to go away for a long time. So give it up for my virtual reality QUARAN-BIT. Okay, I've got one more for you guys.
Woo!
Okay, now this week, I'm very lucky to have Nick Angelo from Rust Belt Rivals on the show to talk about Eagles Steelers. So we have a little bit of a sports theme this week. And as you know, I'm a Bleeding Green Eagles fan. But what I want to tell you is that my son, Rocco, okay, is, well, much to my chagrin, not as into football and the Eagles as I would like at this stage. You know what I mean? He's 9 years old. But he is into football and the Eagles as much as he is into the chicken wings, chicken fingers, and french fries that we order from Chickies and Pete's during the football game. So I would say that my son is interested in the chicken aspect of football. He's in it for the chicken, okay, people? But, and this has been a little disappointing to me, but I am finally getting through to him, and I have proof due to homeschooling, okay? Because here's a little quick story. Earlier this week, his gym teacher at school, through virtual schooling, was doing football activities with them for the week for gym class, throwing a football, maybe punting the football, okay? And I know his gym teacher, okay? And he is a diehard Giants and Mets fan. How embarrassing. Can you imagine
Ugh.
walking through life and trying to hold your head up high while being a Giants and a Mets fan? What a fucking horrible, horrendous existence that must be. And that is coming from a Philly sports fan. I feel bad for this guy. But you know what? I'm dropping off Rocco in the old world. We were always talking that smack to each other. You know, no big deal. So he's doing his virtual gym class and he's doing his football activities. And then he says to the students in Rocco's class, you can use any football you want except a Eagles football. Except an Eagles one. Okay? And then, as I'm being regaled this story by my son, who is not into football, who is only into football for the chicken finger aspect of football, goes on to the public comment section where all of his classmates can see it, and he says, why no Eagles football? Because we're in first place? Sick burn, right, Dada? And there I am, my mother watching Yentl, Jew tears coming out of my eye. I was so proud. I was like, oh my God, my work is done here, everybody, okay? Because not only did my son talk shit to a Giants fan, but he did it to his teacher, an authority figure, in a very public way. That is the true mark of an Eagles fan, because we absolutely fucking despise authority. Have you ever seen the way that we treat referees, okay, ticket vendors, or people that ask us to please disperse from the parking lot at 2 a.m. after a Monday night game? So give it up for me for being a great Eagles dad, ladies and gentlemen. I did it. Okay. Are you guys having a good time? I hope you are. Now, time for our Paper House Network double feature invasion here on Season 2, Episode 2 of Philly Comedy Club Presents the RUS GUTIN Experience here on Zoom. And this week, we are doing our first pre-recorded segment. That's how cool this show is, that people are maneuvering their schedule just to talk to me. And I am so excited. On Paper House Network, which is the sister digital platform of the New York Comedy Club universe, of which Philly Comedy Club and Atlantic City Comedy Club is a part of, you can download all these amazing podcasts that are made by all of my amazing comedian friends during this time. And they did have it before the pandemic started, but obviously during this time, it's really increased. So we want to amplify their presence, and we want people to follow and subscribe to these podcasts on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and all the places they're available. And this week, I'm so excited to play you my conversation with our first very official guest, none other than the Commissioner of Comedy himself, the greatest host in the business, Mr. James Mattern. Join me for a candid conversation about his podcast, The Commissioner of Comedy, and some of our observations about how you should be as a comedian and about what comedy is up to right now. So I hope you'll put your hands together while I click the button to share the screen with my conversation with Paper House Network's The Commissioner of Comedy, Mr. James Mattern. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together. Woo! Welcome everybody to our second segment. As promised, it's Russell Around the Interwebs. This week on Philly Comedy Club Presents the RUS GUTIN Experience here on Zoom. And as promised, this week we have a Paper House Network double feature, which is the digital sister platform of the New York Comedy Club universe, of which Philly Comedy Club is a part of. And this week I am so excited to have one of my favorite comics and my best buddies in the entire business, who has one of the flagship podcasts on Paper House Network. That's right, tonight we are honored to have the Honorable Commissioner of Comedy, Mr. James Mattern, to the show. Welcome. I'm going to clap for you, James.
Oh my goodness, Russ. Russ, I just finished watching wrestling from this week, and they don't put anyone over as much as you just did there.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. I'm the mean gene of Zoom show hosts. So,
my goodness, Jim Ross is not Steve Austin over as well.
No. Well, hey, listen, Jim McMahon has to decide between giving me or Triple H his business after he dies. So good luck. So I am so excited. We have never had somebody on the show with such an official title, a commissioner. So this is really exciting. But James, you have an amazing podcast, like I said, on Paper House Network called The Commissioner of Comedy. And I think that your podcast is just absolutely fascinating, both to comics like me who have been at it for 21 years, but also to people who are just fascinated by comics and our industry, and it gives them a little bit of an inside look and a breakdown of it. And what I love about it the most is I see your passion for our craft. It's so evident in all the episodes you do and all the subjects you cover. I absolutely love it. So my first question for you is, what's the origin story? How did this podcast come to be?
Well, it was kind of like I won't say an accident. I used to joke around. So the title for the podcast, I was reluctant to even call it that, but it's because like, who the fuck am I, to be quite blunt? I mean, but it's a lot cooler than like Comedy 101 or like it just sounds cooler. I used to joke in the green room with like Amy, who's the booker in New York, and other comics about how we see all these bad habits happening and just lawlessness with young comics. And I probably did the same things back when I came up in Vegas, and even probably when I moved to New York, to be blunt. Yeah, we need a commissioner. And I always joke, like I talked about wrestling. Pro wrestling has played into this a lot.
Right.
I've learned a lot of like how to carry oneself in this business through, like, I hear old time wrestlers talk about like their rules, and I kind of thought it the same way. So I used to joke that I would be the Undertaker, because the Undertaker used to, when someone got too big for their britches, would demand to work with someone and work stiff. Right. Stiff means in wrestling where I'm actually fucking you up. Right. The Taker would fuck the guys up for real, and they couldn't say nothing because the Undertaker. And then I joked like I should just become the commissioner of comedy. So that became a running joke. And then I wrote a post about comics running off the stage, and that got a lot of likes. And then a couple people reached out to me because I said something a week later, because comics are like celebrating bomb threats to comedy clubs because I was with Ari Shafir and I kind of reprimanded people, and then it's just like, all right, you should do this. So this is how the podcast started, my friend. No, quarantine happened. I had nothing else to do.
Yeah, well, no, yeah. So I wasn't sure if it was something that just came out of the circumstance, or it seems like it seemed like a perfect storm. It seems like a lot of us had a little bit of time to focus on something that maybe we wouldn't have focused on if that time wasn't given to us, and that's the best we can do. I love that, James, because you and I have both been, you know, hosts with the most, so we see those bad habits, and we are the recipients of that. So the thing you did yesterday, the thing you're talking about this week about running off the stage and leaving it open for somebody to run up, which has happened to me in Atlantic City, or just leaving it empty. You know, you can't do that. And even if I don't like you, let's give off the impression that we have, you know, chemistry and camaraderie backstage. So Bubba, actually speaking of this, you have covered a lot of subjects already. You're about, how many episodes in are you?
We're at the deuce, buddy.
Yeah, 20 or something, I thought. So you've already covered so many subjects, like dealing with bombing and pressure, the pressure we put on ourselves, and that comes from the outside. You've talked about joke stealing, spot trading, knowing your worth, which I really like. Like, what should you accept and what should you not accept as a professional working in this business? And you have even covered the most controversial of subjects, James, which is whether you can or cannot wear shorts on stage. This is, you know, that's a firebrand subject. You're gaslighting motherfuckers. Oh my God.
It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, speaking of that, but the episode that stood out to me the most and did get the most sort of fiery reaction online, especially in your comment section on social media, was when you posed the question, is heckling a part of comedy, and is it the comedian's job to handle a heckler? Now, my answer to that is a big no, but I wanted you to tell, you know, the audience tonight, like, where did you fall on that question, and were you surprised at the reaction it got from the comics, you know, in particular?
So, like, I promote the episode by asking questions on Monday, like on Facebook, and see how people reply. And I usually, up to that week, never debate with anyone. I usually just like your comment or say, yeah, great.
Yeah, because people just chime in, you know.
But I push back on this because there was a lot of arrogance on the part of the people who think it's and it's weird. I don't know most people that are following me on Facebook, to be honest. I've made, honestly, I'm not bragging. I requested 10 people my whole life. I just, all right, I accept you. So there, and the tone was like, if you have to ask that, you're in the wrong business. And part of it's also like, so they're showing that they're good. Like, look at me, I can handle it. And also like throwing shade at me for asking, like I'm not good and can't handle it. So I think
it was very aggressive. And you are a very like, you know, easygoing, like, presence, you know, that's, you put people at ease. So I was surprised. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I've had my meltdowns, obviously, with him, but, like, I'm known for putting, if needed, putting the bullet in the head and doing it all right with hecklers. Like, and I don't think I get heckled too much anymore, knock on wood, because I think they can tell. Yeah. But, like, just because I can handle it doesn't mean you should have to. It's like, people write jokes, and people are quiet, and people have nervous energy that don't need to be interrupted. So it's like, why shouldn't they be able to do their art correctly? And so I end up getting like in a Facebook like dispute with some dude I don't know from England, and I feel bad. I want to reach out to him. I've never had a guest. I might want to bring him on because I have seen some clips. It is different. England does, in the UK and Ireland, do things different, and I think it is encouraged to be part of the show.
Different there. I think that is a little bit expected because you're in these small towns or things like that. So I've been told it's different.
But to me, I mean, this guy was like coming at me like, you're confusing an actor. No, motherfucker, I'm confusing a comic. And then I brought up specials, and I'm like, so cool, man. How come they don't like How come we don't see Chappelle interacting with the crowd? And
I loved when you said that. Like, Netflix didn't pay to hear, you know, Jack the Welder from Poughkeepsie.
Yeah.
He paid to hear Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, and then this dude was like, well, and then he's kind of like, I hate to use this term, he was like comic-splaining me. It was kind of like, hey, these are invites, and they edit, and then he goes like, you must be new to this game. And I was like, yeah, man, I haven't been doing it long, about 20 years. And
yeah, just 21 years, you know.
I did warm up for a bunch of specials on that. I've never been to a TV taping. Yeah, just, you know.
Right.
Ironically, I warmed up the British night for JFL like a year ago. So people he probably is begging for stage time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
No, but I really loved it. And
it's funny, though.
I was
an open micer. Yeah.
And I'm glad that you shared, you know, that you were sort of taken aback by it, because I was too, and I love the reaction videos, because even at one part, you said something that I've heard from people who have, you know, it's more, definitely in Atlantic City is something where it is kind of expected. So I steamroll at the top of the show with material. So you set a great tone, because you make everybody feel like they're part of the conversation with you. And me, I sort of like steamroll them. So I try to give them like the sign, like, this isn't the time. But when they do that after the show, you had that great something like where they walk up to you and go, hey man, I was just trying to help. And it's like, I don't need your help.
It's the only job I think that people do that. Like,
it is.
Like, could you imagine trying to jump on the field and tackle someone and be like, I was trying to help you. You stupid bastard. I got drafted. I've been conditioned to become a football player since I was 7. And I get paid huge money to do this and practice 6 days a week to peak here. You're not helping anyone. You don't realize that it just shows, and this is one of the reasons why I do the pod, is that people think that what we do, anyone can do it.
Anyone can do it, right.
And it's that we're not, like, I always tell people, like, the amount of coffee, what I eat, how I work out before, what I read, what I listen to, it all is so I can peak when I get on stage. And I'm not the only person who does that. We are professionals. We're trying to get ourselves good, because a lot of us is how we eat. So we have to be as possible at this. So it's our job. We're skilled at this.
And I appreciate it also. Last thing I want to say on this subject is I went to school for musical theater. I have a theater background. I'm an actor. You know, you can't stand up in the middle of a Broadway show and say, I don't believe you. Like, if you're dissatisfied with Edward Norton's performance in Burn This, you know, they'll fucking drag you out.
The concerts start next year. Again, please bring your guitar to Tool and see if Adam Jones has you plug in next to him.
Yeah, let's see how many. Let's see how that goes. And then
Danny Carey wants you to help him on drums. Get out of here.
No, it's absolutely preposterous, and I really, really appreciated you talking about that, because even at Gotham, Ed would ask you to stop talking once, and there was no second time. And even though he was small, he works on a farm, I guess, in real life, so he would just lift you up like a barrel. They wouldn't even refund your money. I loved it. Okay.
If you don't think he's painted some houses in the day, let's just leave it like that.
No, and I've seen him. But then, like, when he turns on pre-show music, it's like Carrie Underwood. It's like the happiest country music you've ever.
It's hilarious.
Okay, now, James, you mentioned that. Now, I think, in my opinion, in 21 years on both coasts, you're the best host I have ever seen with my own 2 eyes. And you also mentioned, as everybody in our business knows, that you're one of the best TV warm-up guys in the business. There's like 5 people who can do it. There's you, there's Regina, there's like Ryan Reese, there's a few people that are truly skilled at it. So my question to you is, though, as the commissioner of comedy, you are technically not an elected official, right? As you said, you are appointed. So I have 2 comedy questions for you. One, as the commissioner of comedy, are there term limits, or is this a lifetime appointment? And 2, if there are term limits, okay, for being the commissioner of comedy, who are some comics you would nominate to succeed you?
So, first of all, my term limit ends after this interview, because I know.
I know. Yes, I burned it to the ground. That's my.
Man, I love. So I always looked at some people as like kind of comedy, like royalty, or just like had a position out here in New York. Like, I always thought, like, if there was a prom king and queen, it'd be like Ted Alexandro and Jessica Kirsten.
I can live with that. I can live with that.
They've always been like the people, like Ted's like fought like a union boss for us for years, and so he's kind of like on that level. And Jessica too. Jessica will help you with anything. I always said like the dean is Gary Goldman.
Yeah, love it.
Everyone looks at him for knowledge. Dante Nero to me would be like an underboss type guy. That, like if I had a running mate,
a street level hero, kingpin, you know.
I would put him as my running mate, and we'd be okay. Dante is great on that.
Yeah, no one's rushing the stage, so
absolutely. And we miss a little bit of that because he does tend to be a little more aggressive and mean, for lack of better words, to young comics. Which I don't want us to go back to the old ways, but we need a little bit of it, and he has enough of that. I'm gonna tell you a perfect one when I was thinking about this. Commissioner of Comedy, Ophira Eisenberg to me would be absolutely outstanding as a commissioner. Okay. Out on the West Coast, I think Mike Lawrence would do a stellar job out there. He's out there now. Yeah, I mean, those
are. I love all of that, and when you bring up people like Ted and Jessica and Gary in particular, when I think of them and my experience with them, what I love about them is that they're legends. They're absolutely awesome. But if you do a good job on stage, they're the first person smiling at you. They're the first person who wants to like tell you, hey, that was really good, because it feels like somebody did that for them and they feel like it's their job to do it. I got goosebumps just thinking about right now when I first moved back to New York from Los Angeles, and one of the first nights at Gotham where you and I met, and I was like, this guy has to be the other host of this show. You are the best. You are just the best. And I remember Jessica destroyed, and I walked up nervous to meet her, and she gave me a compliment, and it was in this business, that to me is a rare thing, not an everyday thing. Where people love to see other people shine. And I love that. I love that you mentioned them. Okay, brother. Speaking of this, during the pandemic, you have evolved with the times, and you have now been performing stand-up comedy in all these outdoor venues. Everything from the middle of Central Park to an outdoor amphitheater in the middle of Pennsylvania. So my question to you, as a comic who hasn't gotten to do that. I've been here since March, pretty much. I leave once a week in a hazmat suit.
You look so groomed, though.
Thank you.
Taking care of yourself.
Thank you very much. Well, I've got nothing else to do. And, you know, besides playing video games, it's just trimming my beard. So my question to you is, what is the best part and what is the worst part of performing stand-up comedy outdoors?
All right, so let's get the worst part out. Like, the park shows can be difficult because sometimes you don't know who is actually listening. Sometimes people are doing calisthenics. Some people are just having a date on a blanket. Some people are making coke deals. Always see a squirrel trying to hump someone's leg or bludgeon them with their squirrely teeth while they're on stage performing. There's always that aspect.
You like squirrels, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. There's squirrels. Sometimes it gets dark now at Central Park and like a possum will run by you and you're like, holy shit.
Wow, wow. I am not a fan of nature, outdoors, or animals, so I'm already knowing that missing some of this outdoor stuff is probably a good thing for me.
Yeah, I all due respect, I don't think this is.
No, you're not the first person to say that to me, sweetheart. I don't think the outdoor shows are for you.
Figures another Italian would be the one who says it to you.
Well, she loves you. She loves you. She said that she's missing this. She's upstairs working right now, but she's excited that we got to get together.
You'll be able to show
what's the best part?
It's gonna sound corny, but I talk about it in the pod, man. People are so grateful for these shows. Like when I do those amphitheaters in the PA area, it's a small town, and these people now are referring to Royersford, PA, and Spring City as like the capital of comedy now because they're getting everybody.
Comedy city or something, yeah.
It's getting that, and it's given like hope to some people to leave their house. And even when I do like these penthouse shows in New York, it's like everyone's watched everything on the internet. Everyone has seen every crevice of their apartment and knows everything about their significant other, is sick of everyone. And just for a few minutes, 70 minutes, 90 minutes, they get to leave and go somewhere different, outdoors, as safe as possible, and to see comedy. And special, in a lot of places, it's still kind of illegal. There's a danger element to it. And it's kind of fun, and it's fun to watch how people are enjoying it this way. That comedy's like important. right now again, and dangerous, because there's just not that much entertainment.
I love it. I love
and
it.
it's good to have that without bullshit language. I know everyone's like, I can't say this anymore. Comedy's not edgy. Well, you could just write a better joke without using a slur that a group of people hates. But
Right.
But there's other ways, and now it's important to people.
You could just write a better joke. I'm sorry. I just love that. Put that on a plaque.
No, it's so crazy. I hear about it, and you know, we should be allowed to say things, and there's people who are definitely fighting for it. Like Judy Gold just put out a wonderful book about that, and it's great, and I adore Judy. And
Yeah, I have
some
that
people are hiding behind lazy writing and stereotypes and bullshit, and saying that it's not, oh, we can't say anything anymore. You still can. Just be funny and have a point, and also be cognitive of some people. That's a trigger word, and there's things that, you know, there's lines that can cross. Be more creative than that. How about some? It's so weird. We get these lines, and people are like, well, how am I supposed to work? Sometimes creativity comes when you're in a goddamn box.
I think so. I think that some of the best stuff that I've ever had to write, like I had to write for Alan Thicke one time for Clear Channel Radio.
Yeah.
And it had to be all these different sketches and spots, and it had to be completely clean. Like, even cleaner than clean, because it was him. So to me, that was challenging. So when I heard the laughs or whatever, for me, it was the first time I think I'd ever even written anything that didn't have fuck every other.
Isn't it nice to have a challenge? There's that great line in Get Shorty, which is one of my favorite movies.
Oh, I love it.
Sometimes you do your best work with a gun to your head. Sometimes when you think that you can't do something and there's pressure and it's not who you are and there's parameters, that's when the best of you comes out. So, you know, look, I also don't like censorship and all that shit, but there can be, when there's a little bit of rules, can help you go to a place that you weren't going to before. And isn't that what we're trying to do as artists? Sorry, we just totally sabotage that, but whatever.
No. And I think
these questions can go wherever the fuck they want.
No. And also, what I say to younger comics sometimes is, if they ask me, I don't ever give advice, but if someone asks me, I always just say this, like, find a way to make it unique and yourself. Just find a way to, if you can find a way to be yourself, then what you say will be funny, because people will feel like they're actually getting to know the authentic you. I'm just saying, it will write itself if you could just figure out a way to be yourself. That's what I think. So I don't think you should try to be funny. I think you should try to be yourself. So, well, I think you should try to be funny, but you know what I mean.
It's part of the job,
No, but I'm just saying, don't try to write the funny, just try to write the funniest thing that you would say, not the funniest thing you think you should say.
There you go, Bubba.
This is what I was going to say, Bubba. This is the last one.
Oh, my.
You and I love to hang off stage when we're at shows, and we always get to talking about sports. One of my favorite nights in Atlantic City was meeting you and Anthony DeVito and just talking about basketball for 2 hours. I could do that every night and be happy. But you're originally, like you said, from Las Vegas. And even though you love sports, besides UNLV basketball back in the day, like we've talked about, you had to find your love of professional teams elsewhere, because Vegas didn't have them, you know, whereas I grew up here with like all four. But now you guys have the Raiders playing football. You guys have the Vegas Knights playing hockey there too. So here's my question, quick sports question. What was more exciting, UNLV winning the NCAA tourney back in like 89, 90 area, or the Vegas Knights winning a Stanley Cup their first year of existence?
Well, we didn't win that year. We got to the finals. We won the West.
Okay, but going to the, because here in Philadelphia, even going there would be
we would have won, especially they started days after the tragedy and the shooting, and so that would have been insane. It still meant a lot. I thought, you know, I'm sorry, you know, in my memory, it doesn't matter to me. You guys being there was enough. So it still means a lot. So that's an interesting question, even like that. Winning the national title, but going to the Stanley Cup Finals your first year. They won their first game in the Stanley Cup Finals and lost the next four. With the
very
tragedy,
Philadelphia of them.
Well, the tragedy in the shadow, though, makes it really special. That almost might mean more. And it's also, you know, for a generation now that they have that was too young. I mean, it's almost like folklore.
Oh, wow. Okay, but
we won something, UNLV?
But that's when you guys had Larry Johnson, right? On UNLV. And when I was a kid, the sneakers I begged for were the Grandmama Larry Johnson React Juice.
Yeah.
Those were my like the brass rig of sneakers for me, and I did get them. So I loved Larry Johnson. I thought he was awesome.
Oh yeah, man, those teams were great. And now 8 people go to UNLV games. It's an
wow.
show.
Okay.
It's just we used to all when I go back for the holidays, we go to Rebel games, and now you go to Knights games, and then if you happen to go to a Rebels game, it's seriously. They're putting goddamn mice in the seat.
Oh man, that's wild. That's wild because the Vegas Knights games look like a lot of fun, especially their whole opening number. It reminds me of the Van Damme movie Sudden Death when they couldn't use the real hockey or whatever it was, and then remember he fights the mascot. But Powers Booth owed that really over the top hockey team. So that's what the. Oh hey, listen, any day we can get a reference to Jean-Claude Van Damme's sudden death into an interview, I think that we are
Powers Booth. Don't sell yourself short on Powers fucking Booth, my friend.
Hey, listen, I understand, but who has a better speaking voice than Powers Booth? Plus, he's on a lot of the DC animation too.
Gorilla Grodd.
Gorilla Grodd on. I was just gonna say on Bruce Timm's Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. So one of our favorites. That's another subject we'll have to get into another time because
we'll talk comics.
The superheroes. So I just want to say, I can't thank you enough, Bubba, for joining me. Today on this pre-recorded interview. This is the first time we've done one of these, but that's really cool because we're also on YouTube. So ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and go to Paper House Network, go to iTunes, go to Spotify, and find James Mattern as the Commissioner of Comedy. Like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us, James, on Season 2, Episode 2.
Thank you, fam. Be well, baby.
Love you, brother.
Yeah. Love, fam. Love.
All right. So that should be the part where we go to, hold on. I'm going to unshare the screen. I'm going to stop share. Okay. And then I'm going to start my video again. Hey, give it up for me. We did it. All right. So there's going to be a little bit of a bumpy transition into the next video. But can we just give it up one more time for the Commissioner of Comedy, Mr. James Mattern, for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. And it's like my wife was reminding me something I forgot to say to him, something that he and I have talked about before too, which is the only joke that you can't steal is the joke that is uniquely about yourself. I think that what I was trying to say in that moment, but I was so excited to just see James in any way. But I really mean this. If you just take your life and find a way to translate it, then your joke will be unique. There's only 9 jokes about everything the president does, but there's only 1 joke about what you do. So that's my little bit of advice. So give it up for me. I am the sub-commissioner of comedy. Okay, so now here's where the rubber meets the road, and I'm going to say that again during this section. But we are about to bring our second guest to the show of what we call our Paper House Network invasion of Season 2, Episode 2 of the RUS GUTIN Experience here on Zoom, presented to you by Philly Comedy Club. Oh, wait, hold on. No. Stop talking, clip. I was not ready for the clip to talk. Let me tell you something. This is called show business. Okay? So one day I'll get a fucking producer who will do this stuff for me. Okay? But right now we are about to partake in the second double feature part of our Paper House Network of Season 2, Episode 2 of Philly Comedy Club presents the RUS GUTIN Experience here on Zoom. And this week, not only do we have an amazing podcast to feature called Rust Belt Rivals, but the co-host and Pittsburgh Steelers arm of Rust Belt Rivals also happens to be one of the amazing team members behind the scenes that makes all of our ticket arms and our podcast arms happen for the New York Comedy Club universe, of which we are a part of. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to play a little clip from the hit podcast Rust Belt Rivals, and then the Pittsburgh Steelers arm co-host of Rust Belt Rivals, Mr. Nick Angelo, is going to join me for a little interview and a little breakdown of this Sunday's very rare regular season matchup of the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Pittsburgh Steelers for a Keystone Bowl Battle of Pennsylvania matchup. So put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, and prepare. Oh, shit. Hold on. I am going to get there. Here we go. I'm going to put that to full screen. Full screen. And then I go to the show. And then I go to share. It didn't work. We're going to try one more time, Nick. And then in post, I am going to fix this. So I go down from there. Fucking A. Here we go. I'm going to put this to this. I'm going to play a clip from Rust Belt Rivals, and then for an awesome interview, we are going to welcome your guest to break down Eagles Steelers, Mr. Nick Angelo. Trying my best here.
You're doing great.
This is all going to be fixed in post by yours truly.
You can do it.
You can do it, Dada.
I did it. I'm optimizing audio and video. So please, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for a little clip from Rust Belt Rivals, and then he's going to join us, the Pittsburgh Steelers fan, Mr. Nick Angelo.
Time. Well, first off, the Giants are trash. We said it last week. Everyone knows it. If you have two eyes, or even just, you could just smell them. That's how bad they are. Are they worse than the Jets? I think so. So, in the battle of who's worse in New Jersey, I think the Giants are worse than the Jets. And Daniel Jones does not look good. And to your point, he should be worried about his starting job. If Dwayne Haskins is getting benched, he's got to be next. Now, Dallas, holy smokes, bro. You want to talk about just a terrible defense. I mean, their defense is so bad, you should call them the New York Giants. Like, they're so bad. They got absolutely gashed by the Browns last week. They're always playing from behind. That is why Dak's fantasy numbers are out of this world. Listen, I know I was wrong. He's not a bad quarterback. But he's not the greatest quarterback either. Those numbers are inflated. As for the pick, I'm taking Dallas just because the Giants are just that damn bad.
Yeah. So first of all, I wanted to talk about what happened at the end of that Giants game last week with Jalen Ramsey and Golden Tate. And had you known any about the history behind this?
No. Great.
Oh, so this is insane. So Jalen Ramsey left Golden Tate's sister pregnant last year.
Whoa.
And that is why they were brawling on the field after that game. There is a history there.
Oh.
And yeah, that is this season 2020 is a little bit of everything.
Man, was that game on Bravo last?
Right, no, I love that. Was that game on Bravo? Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show the Pittsburgh Steelers co-host of Superhouse Network's Rust Belt Rivals, the man behind the scenes and the man with the plan, Mr. Nick Angelo, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for having me, Russ. Thanks for being here. Listen, I was listening to the show, and I'll tell you what. The day Santa Claus comes down your chimney holding your son's gifts and your son starts booing him, that's when you got yourself.
That's right. No. And then listen, this is true. We're gonna tase him, and then we're gonna kick him while he's down. Okay, while he vomits and shits on himself.
There it is.
Don't tase me, bro. And then we just fucking Goodfellas stomp him, you know? Like, we just fucking, you know, I swear to God, I've paid a few houses in my time. As James said about Ed in Gotham. Oh my God, that was classic. Nick, I am so glad that you were here tonight and that you have enjoyed the program. And like I said, I will fix all of my technical issues there in post. Now, Nick, not only are you one of the amazing team members behind the scenes of the New York Comedy Club universe and ticket platform that makes all of the fucking cogs in the wheel work, okay? You are also one of the producers over at our sister digital platform, Paper House Network, that features the Commissioner of Comedy, but also an amazing sports-centric podcast that you are the co-host of called Rust Belt Rivals, where you and your buddy Simon Siegel go at it because you are a Pittsburgh Steelers fan and he is a Cleveland sports fan. You're a Pittsburgh sports fan. He is a Cleveland sports fan. And you guys go at it full force. And the thing that I love about your podcast, Nick, is that I feel like that is one of the lesser talked about regional rivalries, you know, in sort of the national conversation and stuff like that. So I think it's a really cool inside look. So my first question to you is, what is the origin story? How did Rust Belt Rivals, the pod, come to be?
Well, so Simon and I are really good friends. We're best of friends. And when I first met him, I had just moved to New York. And I first met him, it was right during the decision when LeBron to take his talents to South Beach.
Wow.
So we're in a room together with a bunch of people. I just started the job. He's there. We're talking. Someone says, "Oh, you're from Pittsburgh." I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, well, Simon here's from Cleveland." I looked him right in the eye. I go, "Hey, sorry about LeBron, man." And everyone thought I was talking shit. Everyone started laughing. Everyone was like, "Oh!" And I was like,
you just threw it down. Like,
I later had told him, I was like, "No, I was being serious because as a sports fan, I understand the pain, and I was legitimately giving my condolences to you." And
but it was interpreted in a different way.
And I let it go. Everyone else was like, "Oh yeah, you got him." I was like, "Yeah, okay, I got him." But I was like, "No,
No, everyone went Chris Tucker, but you're trying to be like, you know, Dr. Oz about it. You know, you're trying to be Dr. Phil.
We've been really good friends ever since. We're, you know, obviously diehard football fans.
What a meet cute.
We're, you know, I think our hatred for the Ravens is what really unites us.
Wonderful.
So we just decided, you know, let's, you know, everyone else has a podcast, why not? So we started last season. You know, we kind of felt things around. You got into the podcast world, and now this season we're really kind of, you know, getting our feet underneath us and really getting a groove.
Well, I think it's great this season just because you guys are undefeated, basically, and the Cleveland Browns are absolutely, you know, doing things that they haven't done in at least 12 years. So I think that it's actually a really great time for you guys to be sort of accentuating, like I said, this sort of regional rivalry that people don't talk about as much. There's many rivalries that people talk about, but yours is one of the lesser talk about. So this is what I was going to ask you. Confession time about the podcast. What would you say is the most heated argument you and Simon have gotten into so far?
Well, first off, we actually try not to do the talking heads hot takes.
Okay.
So, but that doesn't keep us from arguing at all.
Right.
But we're not designed to be first take. We're not just yelling at each other for clickbait. You know,
No. And I'm over that too. I think a lot of fans are.
But there has been times, and usually this is before the show, before we record, I'll say to him, I was like, "Bro, when is enough with OBJ? When are you going to let this guy be? He's a punk. He doesn't want, thinks nothing of himself. He's in it for just himself. And Simon gets so angry. Russ, Simon gets so angry that I feel like I'm going to lose my friend.
No, I've heard some of it. He defends him like they went to Sunday school together.
Yeah, like you didn't go to LSU with them. What are you, like, you don't know
Right.
this. I mean, we just
were you even invited to his birthday party? I don't think so.
Yeah, come on. I mean, like you don't know this dude, but he gets so defensive. And I will say this though, if he wasn't so charismatic on those progressive commercials, I'd probably talk shit about Baker Mayfield. But I just like the guy.
No,
you
you
right things, and he's hilarious.
like him. And his wife is a treasure, and they do a lot of things for charity. So it's hard to talk shit on the guy because he's really used his platform to do good. So it's like you can't even poo-poo the motherfucker. And it gets very frustrating. I can imagine for you, it gets very frustrating. It's one of the reasons sometimes when people come at Philadelphia or the Eagles, it's like, we do a lot of charity. Don't blame the organization for the people that live on the Schuylkill River and who are animals. I acknowledge that they are mutants, okay? You understand? You understand, Nick? I understand. I'm from South Jersey. We live in houses. They live in huts. I get it. But we all root for the Eagles, okay?
Russ, I do have a message from Simon, though.
Oh!
He wanted me to relay this to you. He says, quite emphatically, that he stands by the Browns' decision to pass on Carson Wentz. He wanted me to relay that message.
Wow, very hurtful. And at a time like this, when his completion to interception ratio is so devastating when you see it on paper, but you see the kid doing such amazing athletic things. He's still doing them with no-name receivers, but yes. But that is revisionist history and absolute bullshit. Okay, I also want to throw that fucking Tinder. Absolutely. And I will say this though, when the Cleveland Browns beat the Eagles in preseason the year after we won the Super Bowl, I had never seen people so happy in my life, and I had just seen the Eagles fans win a Super Bowl. So I have to tell you, when you guys beat us in preseason, tell Simon, when they beat us in preseason, it was pretty demeaning because you guys celebrated way harder and not one of your fans ate horse or dog poop. So they are in the lead. Okay.
Well, when you're in Cleveland, you need any reason to celebrate. And as for ingesting dog shit, they are right on Lake Erie. So
and there's welfare queens, and you got to get your protein intake. So number 3. Now, Nick, as I have told you many times, this is more of a side topic. You and I get to work together because we're sort of part of this New York Comedy Club universe. So we're always like, hey, can you help me with this or can you help me with that? And you were so amazing at putting together the logo for this series and other things that we've had to do during the pandemic, okay? But most of our text conversations generally end with me expunging my hate for the Pittsburgh Penguins star player, Sidney Crosby, who I hate with the fires of 1,000 suns. I find him to be the most unsportsmanlike little asshole that I've ever encountered, including in Pop Warner, Little League, or you name it. And he refuses, like Tom Brady with Nick Foles, to shake hands with people after he loses. So, Nick, my question for you is generally, why is Sidney Crosby such a whiny little unsportsmanlike bitch boy?
Oh, Russ, all those nice things I just said about you, just go right.
Right. No, all of our text conversations are good, and then you're like, Russ, you just ruined it.
I gotta go. Yeah.
Hey, fuck you, asshole.
Listen. That happened when he was an 18-year-old superstar. Get over
You're
it.
right. You're
You know,
right.
for a
Let he
franchise
who
that hasn't
among
won
us
anything in
without
years, you
sin.
guys still live in the past, I guess. I don't know.
I guess you're right. Now, I would agree with you, except about 2 years ago, he did it again. But I do agree with you that if I were to ask myself as an 18-year-old person, was I sportsmanlike at New York Comedy Club way before our boys, Emilio and Scott, owned it? Because, Nick, I will tell you a funny story. I was 19 years old performing there, so I had to stay outside on the street unless it was my time to perform. But when they brought me into the green room, there was all these older, comics or whatever, and they're like, what is it, bring your kids to work day? And I was like, yeah, my dad's going to be right back. And then they're like, Russ, you're on, But I went to theater school, so all the audience was there for me, you know what I mean? And I have to tell you, I did not handle winning that night sportsmanlike at all. Okay. I went back into the dressing room and I was like, you like that? You like that shit? So I don't judge Sidney Crosby one bit because I was not gracious and it was something that I learned over time, but not in our text exchange. Okay.
Yeah. I will.
Now,
our text exchanges always start off very nice because I'm such a huge Andrew McCutcheon fan.
no,
Great
yes,
author to my generation.
thank
Down
you
in
for
Philadelphia.
Andrew
Starts
McCutcheon.
it starts off so lovely, and then ends like, all right, Russ, I'll talk to you when I talk
All
to
of a sudden I get so aggressive, but I want you to know that where I'm from, at least just so you know, and I'm sure in Pittsburgh it's the same way, it's a way of expressing affection. The more aggressive I am towards you, or the more racial epithets I use towards you or your heritage or religion, is generally a reflection of how much respect
I get it.
and admiration I have to you. And I was just telling you before the show, I love, the Pittsburgh Pirates were so much better than the Phillies back in the day. And I hated Barry Bonds. And when I used to go on JCC field trips to go see the Phillies play with like 18 fucking Jews who can't play baseball, Barry Bonds would just own us. And it was original Barry Bonds, not fathead steroids Barry Bonds. Now, Nick, we're starting to get to sort of the last leg of this. Now, the reason that you and I appreciate your suggestion too, reminding me because we had talked about it, this is the perfect week to have you on the Russ Gutin Experience because this Sunday is a very rare regular season opportunity for the Eagles and the Steelers to find themselves meeting each other in a matchup on a regular season gridiron situation. Okay, it usually happens in preseason. Okay, and fans like us around here and where you are, we call it the Keystone Bowl. We call it the Battle of Pennsylvania. There's only one room, there's only room in Pennsylvania for one champion. And when I was growing up, you guys were pretty much the champion. This is a very recent identity for us, okay? But this Sunday, the Eagles meet the Steelers in a regular season matchup, and you are the Pittsburgh Steelers co-host of Rust Belt Rivals. So, my first question to you is, because this weekend always has, that extra juice, right, Nick? Don't you think that these games, even in preseason, always have a little bit of fuck you attitude? I think so. It's Wawa versus Sheets. It's hot dog versus cheesesteak. It's a big deal, okay? So my first question to you before we get to this week's particular game is, what is your favorite Eagles versus Steelers game or memory? Because in our lifetime, there's been quite a few.
Well, first off, if you look back at the record books, the Steelers do not fare well against the Eagles. The Eagles have the Steelers number. That's just fact.
Well, in the last 20 years, that's what I sort of dug into for this segment.
So I don't really have a particular moment, but I will share this. It's the 2004 season. And, I'm not saying this to throw some digs at you, but this is, you asked.
And that's when I moved to LA. I give it to me. I watched
So
that.
I'm
I remember that whole season.
I'm a Penn State graduate. So I was living in State College, going to
Wow.
school there for 7 years. And so it was such a weird town because it's a football town. On Saturdays, everyone's blue and white. We are Penn State. But then on Sundays, it's Pittsburgh versus the Eagles. And, bro, we play each other once every 4 years.
Yeah, no, it's very rare.
This hatred in the center of Pennsylvania, in center PA, between Steelers fans and Eagles fans was just mind-blowing. I, for about 3 years of my life, hated the Eagles way more than I ever hated the Ravens or the Browns. Just because.
Right, and that's ridiculous.
So 2004, we both make the conference championship game.
Correct.
The Eagles win, the Steelers lose. And that night, I had people, Eagles fans, calling me, texting me, running up and down the street, just screaming like, here we go, Steelers, here we go, to be assholes. And Russ, I was so angry. So angry. This is how angry I was.
Well, that's the main emotion that we elicit from people. It's anger.
I became so angry that I had to do something that I thought I would never in a million years do, and that was root for Tom Brady and the Patriots in the Super Bowl.
Oh my God, Nick, you were the guy with the camera at our practices. This is breaking news. Hold on, I gotta tweet this. Hashtag.
I put something in Donovan McNabb's drink. That's why.
Oh my God, that's why he threw up. He pulled a Willie Beeman. He pulled a Jamie Foxx Willie Beeman.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
No. Me and Dara had just moved to LA, so I had to watch the Super Bowl at my friend's apartment with all of these, they don't even watch football, motherfuckers. I mean, and this is like my whole life is dependent. So it is a very traumatizing experience. So now that I know you were the one that made Donovan McNabb throw up,
yeah,
I will dedicate my life to a vengeance quest
I will
against you and your loved ones. It's no big deal. It's no big deal.
We were in a high-rise in a apartment complex at Penn State, and during the halftime show that Super Bowl, Paul McCartney performed. And at the end, of it, the Eagles were losing, so Eagles fans were very quiet. And at the end of halftime, I opened up the window and I screamed for hundreds of people to hear me. I just screamed, Beatles, Beatles!
Oh no.
So much trash got thrown
Oh,
out.
you're lucky the place didn't get set the fuck on fire.
Yeah, it was
Okay?
because of that. After the game, I kept to myself and just walked home and didn't say a word.
That's funny, and I have to tell you two little side notes. One, a great friend of the show and one of my best friends in real life, who I call my actual big brother, is a man named Drew Kilcoyne, who you can look him up on IMDb. He's an amazing editor in the movie business, and he went to Penn State. His father went to Penn State. His grandfather and great-grandfather went to Penn State. So I grew up with Drew in South Jersey, but when we both moved out to LA, even though on Sundays I was the leader of the Eagles crew, on Saturdays I was lucky enough to be part of the Penn State alumni crew there in Los Angeles. So it's a big shout out to Uncle Drew Kilcoyne, and the fact that Nick Angelo is a We Are Penn State motherfucker is so exciting to me, because it has a special place in my heart, and I won't hear any of the negative talk about Penn State at all. So we are, and God bless you. And side note, I am so excited to bring up our last question. Are you ready, Nick? Now,
I'm ready, Russ.
this weekend, as we have talked about, my God, it's so long. This week, on Sunday is a very rare regular season matchup between the Eagles and the Steelers. You're a Steelers fan. You're the host of Rust Belt Rivals. So this is my question for you, okay? And then I'm going to follow up after you. What is your breakdown and analysis of this Sunday's Eagles-Steelers matchup? What are your bold predictions for what might happen in the game? And finally, what is your final score? What is your predicted final score? Give it to the people.
All right. Well, first off, I want to say that on paper, the Steelers should win this game easily. But
Yes.
I will say there's a couple things. The Eagles aren't that bad of a team. They just are riddled with injury. I'm pretty sure I saw a guy catch a ball last week, 00 Gutin on the back of his jersey.
No. Yeah, that was me.
I mean, I don't know who's playing wide receiver in Philly, but holy smokes. But I will say the Eagles aren't as terrible as they look. Which
Thank
is
you.
odd to
Wow,
say.
what a nice thing to say.
But I will say this: coming off our impromptu bye week, which kind of scared
Right.
me. You know, it kind of really took the wind out of our sails. We had some momentum going. Ben
You
was
did,
fine.
and Nick, can I just tell you though, the least surprising news of a pandemic football season is that the team from Houston, Texas would catch the COVID.
Yeah.
Couldn't be less surprised in my life. Please keep going.
So I'm a little concerned that maybe we took the the gel that was coming together. You know, Ben has
Correct.
been over a year. He doesn't have a rapport with all these receivers. You know, they're finally starting to get things together, and all of a sudden it's like, psych, you're not playing this week.
Boom.
So I'm a little nervous about that. I'm also nervous that Miles Sander, Penn Stater, and
Correct.
from Pittsburgh, he went to Woodland Hills.
I have that in my breakdown.
Great high school football team out here in Western Pennsylvania. I think he's gonna show up. I mean, that's a tough defense to run against, but he's going to have. If you're a fantasy guy, I think Miles Sanders is going to have a nice game in the passing routes for sure.
Absolutely.
So I'm a little nervous about him. But what it's going to come down to is the big guys up front, and you can mark my words. Whoever wins the turnover battle and whichever team has the most sacks, Eagles front four can get to the quarterback.
Always.
If they can get to Ben, and our offensive line has been shaky, if they can get to Ben, look out. This game might not be the way we all think it should be. However, Bud Dupree, TJ Watt, they're on the other side too.
That's
And
correct.
your
Yeah,
offensive
no.
line-
Anybody with the last name Watt, I want no part of it.
So basically, whoever gets the most sacks, and your offensive line and my offensive line are in for a long afternoon, and whichever quarterback can walk off the field is probably going to be walking off with a victory. I think it's going to be Ben and the Steelers. I think it's going to be a low-scoring, ugly kicker duel. I wouldn't be surprised if this game ends up being, 24-14 Steelers.
Ooh.
In a game that's going to be way too close for comfort for Steelers fans. And I think Eagles fans I think you guys are going to be pleased with your performance, but I just think if you guys get down and you have to pass, Carson Wentz might want to start. You might want to start buying those Jalen Hurts jerseys because
Oh. Oh, it cuts so deep. Now, Nick, first of all, give it up for Nick. That was an amazing analysis and breakdown. And I know that you write for some of the sports digital networks in your neck of the woods, too. You really know your shit. Now, Nick, you brought up a bunch of things that I happen to have here in my notes here, too, which is, first and foremost, I do think that you have the factor of a Miles Sanders. He is from Pittsburgh. He's a product of Pittsburgh. You guys have produced so many amazing football players over the years. So I do think that he is coming in with that extra juice. I will also say this. You brought this up as well. The Eagles' defensive front is absolutely amazing. Now, me and Dara have adopted Brandon Graham as our baby boy. She even got him to do a cameo birthday message for me. But we love Fletcher Gonna Get Ya. We love Brandon Graham. But what we've noticed about the Philadelphia defense is that they have done a great job this season of having depth and rotating that depth. So the problem for you guys is on the right side of your offensive line, and the fact that we are rotating our defensive front constantly. So you're always getting fresh legs and you're always getting fresh looks. So if we can do what we did a few years ago, which is what I was going to say, my favorite Eagles-Steelers game of the last few years is definitely 2016, where Carson really showed us something. But in that game, what is lost in the nomenclature about it is that the defense put Big Ben off of his timing. If you can put him off of his timing, and even though Big Ben is still formidable in the pocket, and he can still sort of stiff arm you, he can do those elusive things in the pocket. You know, Carson has been compared to young Ben a lot, and I do think that our defensive front with fresh legs and a really heavy rotation is going to get to Ben. So you guys have to do the power running that you guys been done. The last name is Connor, right? Is one of the who's one of the running backs? Is it Connor?
It's James Conner, and
he's amazing.
See, I would disagree with you. I'm not a huge James Conner fan.
Oh, okay, but I just think he runs for power, and I think you guys are going to have to count on him to do some counter programming when it comes to getting Ben off of his timing, because that's what I think our defensive front is going to do. I will say this, two things. One, I'm going to get to your Carson comment in a minute. Where you guys have a bit of an advantage is beyond your power running game, is beyond Darius Slay in our secondary, who has been awesome. And you guys have felt the sting of Darius Slay in some of your matchups the last few years with the Lions and the Steelers. He's going to be matched up on Juju. So I don't think that Juju is a factor, and I think that Darius Slay is more of a shutdown factor. But where you guys have an advantage is the rest of the injuries in our secondary and our sort of lack of depth at linebacker. So that's a matchup that I am nervous about because I think Darius Slay will shut down your number one receiver, and I do think our defensive front will do what they're supposed to do, but I am nervous about the middle and about the left side of our defense, programming. So, but otherwise, I do think with Carson on the move, and you guys do have, oh my God, the Steel Hurtin. What do they call them? Is that what they call them, Nick? The Steel Hurtin?
Steel Curtain.
Yeah, no. It was the Steel Curtain back in the day. But now they call your defensive front the Steel Hurtin.
Yeah.
As I've heard. So I'm a little nervous about that just because I do think that Lane Johnson is going to do a great job against, what's his name? I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name. But on our other side, we have an injured Jason Peters, and we have a rugby player sort of converted into a tackle, Jordan Mailata. He looked good last week, but San Francisco's defense isn't really that big of a deal. So I think you guys are going to put us to the test when it comes to our offensive line. So Carson has to be at his best on the move. That is my breakdown of the game.
So who do you got, Russ? Who's going to win the game?
My final score, thank you for reminding me. That's a good thing you were here, Nick. I'm trying to follow my notes, but I'm also not wearing my glasses. So we're playing with fire here. But my final score is 24-20 Eagles. I do think that we're going to find ourselves in a sort of go for two, fourth down situation, of which Tomlinson is a little bit wary of, and Doug Peterson is a little bit keen to partake in. So I do think it'll be a 24-20, 24-21 situation.
I think we're expecting the same kind of game. It's not.
I was surprised. Yeah, I loved hearing your final score because I still think we're sort of on the same wavelength that this is a very good matchup as far as Eagles Steelers matchups in the last 8 to 12 years have been.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's going to be a good game for me and you to watch, but for the national public, it's going to be a slugfest that may not be very pretty. But I know I'm going to enjoy it. I like ugly football. So
No, and I think the red zone crowd and I think the fantasy crowd has a lot riding on this too. The reason, Nick, that I don't play, a lot of people keep asking me to play fantasy football and all those things, is that I always used to say to people, the reason I don't play fantasy football is because my football fantasy is that the Eagles would one day win a Super Bowl, right? And then they won a Super Bowl, and they're like, what's your excuse now? Pony up the $35. And I said, well, it's just now my fantasy is that we win another Super Bowl. So I have bought myself, this is true, at least another 23 years of never having to play fantasy football, because how can you not get a crick in your neck watching all of those, and this is in the old world, but watching all of those TVs at the sports bar. But now you just watch your tablet and your phone and your computer. So
yeah, it'll ruin your life. It'll ruin your life.
I just follow one team. You know what I mean, Nick? It's one team per sport seems like enough for my heart. You know,
you got the right idea, Russ. It's the right idea. Fantasy football is definitely. I love it and I hate it all at the same time. It's
not for me, but I do have many friends who really do make a living at it. So I do wish that I did have some inclination to do it, because as a Jew, it feels like there's an income stream there. But but otherwise, I only care about being disappointed or appointed by my Eagles on Sundays. So I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you joining me tonight here on Season 2, Episode 2 of the Philly Comedy Club presents the RUS GUTIN Experience here on Zoom, and we welcomed our Pittsburgh Steelers co-host of Paper House Network's Rust Belt Rivals, Mr. Nick Angelo. And you can like and subscribe to Rust Belt Rivals right now on Paper House Network, Spotify, Stitcher, or iTunes. Nick, I wish you no luck this Sunday.
Thanks for having me, Russ. It's always a pleasure to see you. And next time I'm in Philly, you're going to take me out to get a good cheesesteak.
Nick, no, before the pandemic, we were talking about going to Philly's Pirates.
That's right.
So I just want you to know that next Wednesday, I am going to Citizens Bank Park to pick up the cardboard cutout of me and Rocco that I had there. But Nick, I am saying this on the air before God, Jesus, and everybody else. When the world goes back to normal, when the Phillies play the Pittsburgh Pirates at Citizens Bank Park, you will be my guest, and we will eat every fucking food that Citizens Bank Park has to offer.
Well, you know, I'm down for that.
You know it, brother. I love you, Nick. Thank you for joining us tonight. Give it up for Nick Angelo, ladies and gentlemen. And that's for editing. I keep clapping. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the last segment of the RUS GUTIN Experience here on Zoom, and that's ARA, Ask Russ Anything. And this week we have a sports theme. So we're going to take one question from the gallery, and you can ask me any of your sports questions that you want to ask Papa Russ.
Sports theme? Well, I just want to know what's special about today. Is there anything special about today?
There is something special about today that I forgot to mention at the beginning of the show, because I was so excited and trying to hit buttons. But did you know that today is October 9th, and that happens to be my beautiful wife's birthday? She is Forever 27. I don't know if you've ever shopped there. It's a great store. it leaves a little bit to be desired in the customer service department. But my beautiful wife, Dara DeVito, is 27 years old forever, and today is her birthday, and we're so excited that she is here with us
Hello.
tonight. And it's really exciting that we're also having all these things going on here today because we've been homeschooling and quarantining. But tomorrow we are going to do a Schitt's Creek marathon and eat Mexican food. And there is no better person on God's green earth or even the red surface of Mars than my wife, Dara DeVito. So I
Aw.
can't thank you enough for being part of the show here tonight. I love you so much, honey. And thank you so much. It wasn't a sports question, but it was a question to make sure that I was not ejected from the game tomorrow or put in the penalty box. So, ladies and gentlemen, I can't thank you enough for joining us here on the live stream on Zoom of Philly Comedy Club Presents The RUS GUTIN EXPERIENCE. This is Season 2, Episode 2. I want to thank my guests tonight from our Paper House Network podcast Invasion, the host of The Commissioner of Comedy, Mr. James Mattern, joining us for a pre-recorded conversation, and the Pittsburgh Steelers co-host of Rust Belt Rivals, Mr. Nick Angelo, joining us for a breakdown of Eagles Steelers this weekend for the Keystone Bowl. And please join us next week when we will have MTV's and Late Show with Stephen Colbert's Mr. Jacob Williams joining us for Album of the Week, celebrating the release of his album Unemotional Roller Coaster. What a great title. And we will be doing another session of Ask Russ Anything. Please go to YouTube, search Russ Gutin or Gangstapella, and find Season 1 of Philly Comedy Club Presents The RUS GUTIN EXPERIENCE. And you can see every episode of Season 2 and all the seasons coming up just a few days after they air on our YouTube channel too. So please feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us. Good night. I'm over here now.
Woo!
Alright, listen. I throw a curveball and you just strike out. You start to cry. Your mom is asking for you.